Hello from Gardening at Douentza here in Ireland, and today I'm going to repot some Encyclias. Now, anyone who watches my channel knows that I absolutely love the big plants, like this particular Encyclia I have here. I love when they're enormous and they produce lots of fragrant big flowers, and that's why I grow Cattleyas. But today we're going to deal with two quite different Encyclias. We're going to deal with this big monster here, hanburyi, which is cool growing and also terrestrial. And we're also going to repot this other Encyclia over here soaking, which is randii, which is a warm growing one that is epiphytic, as the majority of Encyclias are. So I guess let's get on with it. There'll be lots of work to do with this big one, which I'm going to divide into three, and we'll just see how it's done. Okay, so we're going to start off with the small Encyclia, which is this one called randii, and I've just left it to soak so that it's going to be easier to take out of its pot. And we'll just take it out here. And the general advice is that Encyclias are easy plants. They're not fussy about when you repot. I guess some new growth, especially root growth, would be preferable, but you certainly need to repot them when they start to grow out of their pot, as this one does here. So it's February now, and we are going to take the fact that there's some root growth there as indication enough that this plant is ready to be repotted. And I guess I'm going to try and pull it out of its pot, which the soaking should make easier. Now, I've had this plant for 4 years and it has flowered for me, so it's done well. And as you can see, it has lots of roots. Now, I don't want to pull just here because I feel they might tear. They are adhesed to the side of the pot, as happens with clay pots. Oh, there they come. Okay, out we go. That worked out quite well. Isn't it great when it happens like that? So I'm just going to worry off the media here, and I am pleased to see that we have a decent enough root system here on this particular Encyclia. Now, this one is a miniature, and I'm calling it a miniature because it flowers when it's so small. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pseudobulbs in such a small space, and lots of good roots. It has worked out quite well. Is there anything to be snipped off, I wonder? Any roots that aren't good? I don't think so. I'm going to take off this sheath here. The main reason for taking off sheaths is to make sure there are no bugs hiding underneath. That's what the books all say and the information on the internet. But personally, I've never found any bugs under a sheath. I've had bugs, don't get me wrong, but they never seem to to hide there. Yes, in the axils of the leaves, but never under the sheaths. But we'll take them off anyway, because actually there's a whole cleaner look to a Cattleya or an Encyclia when we don't have sheaths to worry about. And there we go. So I'm just spraying my work surface with a bit of bleach, and now we will return with my rinsed Encyclia. And actually what I've decided to do is to remove some of the back bulbs here, and you can see that there are 2 really tiny back bulbs here which have no viable roots coming down from them, so they're not doing much. And if I were to pot this plant like this, then these back bulbs want to stick up, so I'd have to bury them in the mix, and I never trust buried pseudobulbs. I know you're supposed to be able to bury healthy Cattleya pseudobulbs, or actually any orchid pseudobulbs, but I never trust it. So I'm actually, with my sterilized scissors, just going to snip off these final 2 pseudobulbs. So I will just go in here. And there we go. And this is what I'm left with, which is 5 strong pseudobulbs. And our pot for today is a purpose orchid pot, which this is going to fit very well. Don't you just love it when you do a repot and you get a whole load of healthy roots? That's the best as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so I am going to use bark to repot this. Now, as we know, Encyclia is in the Cattleya Alliance, and the general information, the general wisdom is that they need to be potted in the same way as Cattleyas. So it's a plant that needs to dry out between waterings, so it is best potted in a clay pot with large bark. Personally, okay, and I haven't read this anywhere, but personally my experience is that the Encyclias tend to like smaller bark than the Cattleyas. And with that in mind, what I'm actually going to do is repot my Encyclia in this size bark. And just to let you know that this was the size bark that it was potted in before, and look how well the roots have done. So in we go. Now, what you use is going to vary, of course, on where you are in the world, what your climate is like, your humidity, etc. And also what type of Encyclia you have, because it is an enormous group. But for me, the smaller bark works better. Now, of course, I'm moving the back of the plant to the back of the pot, so that the portion in front where the new growths will come from here has space to expand. I can't remember what month this plant actually flowered in before, but I would really love to see its very large, fragrant brown flowers again. It was a real beauty. And what I'm now going to do is just sprinkle a little bit of oyster grit on top, because this will give the plant added calcium. And this plant needs to now be watered and kept in a warm place. Encyclias, of course, require less water in winter, but it does need to be watered when it dries out. So that's done. Now it's time to get on to the monster. Are you ready for it? And here is the monster. Now, okay, what can I say about this plant? I can say that I've had it for 5 years and it has never flowered for me. I can say it came to me as quite a large plant with some mechanical damage, which we can see here on this final pseudobulb. And last time I repotted it, it like broke into 2 pieces, and I put both of the pieces back into the pot. So it is going to be 2 pieces when I take it out. As you can also see from the very front, this is a plant which has seriously outgrown its pot. We have the newest pseudobulbs leaning right over the edge, and these roots flailing around in thin air. And these roots don't look the best either, because you can see that the tips aren't green, they're actually black, indicating that they've been halted at some stage. And I guess that's to do with the fact that they're not getting any moisture. Now, as you can see, last time I potted it, I used very large bark. Can you see the pieces there? And I have since learned that it is in fact a terrestrial Encyclia. So I am going to use something more moisture retentive this time round. Okay, what you should also know is that this plant is going to divide neatly in half, but then one of those halves is going to be further divided in 2 for my friends. Now, without further ado, I guess I'm going to try and pull this plant out of its pot. It's been soaking overnight, so fingers crossed that it comes out easily. Now, I'm just going to try and grab some pseudobulbs. and wiggle. Oh, I feel movement. Okay, great. Brilliant. And here we go. And oh, it has a good root system. That was kind of a surprise. I expected it not to be the best. See that? Well, that's not too shoddy at all. Okay, I'm actually quite encouraged by that. However, I'm not encouraged by the lack of flowers and hopefully we can get it to flower this time round. So now I'm just going to try and worry out the medium from these very good looking roots. I love when that happens. There's the label, which wants to hang on. Now I can see that there's a new growth here. I wonder, can you see that there? So hopefully that'll produce, well, I suppose another pseudobulb. And there are new roots round here. I'm not sure about this side here, but we'll take off the sheath anyway to see if that is hiding any new growths. And yes, there's new growth there. So, well, when I finish taking all of this off, we'll look about dividing and see where it makes sense to divide. Okay, now come on. And of course I'm trying my best not to break any of these roots. Now, why don't these two pieces come apart? My notes say that they were two pieces, but I'm not sure they are. Okay, I think what I'm going to do now is just run this plant under the tap for a little bit, in that it might loosen the roots that are holding together, and you can just see what's going on then. This is actually coming apart now. Look, can you see? And if I just maneuver, okay, so here is where the division is, and both pieces are hanging on to each other's roots for dear life. They say, no, I don't want to be separated. We're not going to listen to that. Okay, and here we go. We have two pieces. Brilliant. And here are my plants. Now, let's have a look at them. So this is the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pseudobulbs. Last one is very small. And if we look at the front, we have a new growth on the first pseudobulb here. Well, it's more like a dormant eye. I think we have a dormant eye here on the second one. But I wonder, do we have anything going further back? I'm just wondering for the purposes of cutting it for my friends, and no, I don't see anything there. So, okay, that is a piece I could easily cut in two, even though the back portion doesn't have any dormant eyes. I'm sure they'd kind of burst into growth if I were to cut the plant. We also have this piece here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pseudobulbs. The back ones are, well, they're not in great nick. Look at that, the mechanical damage on that. It came to me like this. I don't know what the heck happened to it, but it's ugly to look at, and I might like to get rid of that. And maybe what I'll do just is to remove this back portion and just keep these 5 pseudobulbs myself. We do have dormant eye there, and perhaps another one here underneath the sheath. No. Also, I mean, there is some browning tips on the leaves, and the older pseudobulbs do have these kind of spots on, but whatever it was anyway, the newer pseudobulbs are clean. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep this portion for myself and just remove the ugly back stuff and discard those 4 pseudobulbs. Oh, look at this. This is just already discarded. These 2 are just came off of their own accord. Okay, so, and that one is actually discoloring a little bit, so we get rid of that. Here I have a secateurs that's been sterilized, and it is actually brand new. And I am just looking for the point between, look at this. Who needs a secateurs? It just broke. Just came clean off down here. Okay, so that's the back portion that I'm going to discard. And this is for me, and this is what I'm going to pot up very soon. Just remove some more of the sheaths. And oh look, there's a dormant eye on this pseudobulb here. Yeah, I think it's a good portion. Actually, if we look at the 2 pieces, this piece here originally had bigger pseudobulbs. Look at that. It was grown better than I've been growing it. But that is probably due to the fact that the plant was hanging out over the edge of the pot, which never does anything any good. Okay, right, let's just put this aside for the moment and see what we're going to do with the second portion. Okay, so this piece here, I am going to cut in half for my 2 friends, and the 2 friends you'll be pleased to know are Liga from Potted Jewels channel and Dimitri from The Green Nerd. So you can check out their channels and see how this does. I know Dimitri is going to grow his on his green wall. Oh look, just broke, just wanted to come apart. And here we have 2, who needs a secateurs, huh? Okay, right, so this portion is the front one, and it's the better option because it has the eyes, and that's going to Liga because it was her birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Liga! And Dimitri is going to get this piece, which I'm sure he will do magnificently with. And we're now going to pot up my portion. So first thing, I guess, is just to, since we went to the trouble of sterilizing the secateurs, we will remove this ugly leaf piece. And I think that's about it, really. I'm going to repot the plant in a same size pot, so this is the one it came out of, and I'm going to position it so that the newest pseudobulb has the most space in front of it. I think that's probably enough. And I'm actually going to use a smaller size bark because this is a terrestrial orchid. Now, however, it seems to have done really well in the bark that I had it in before, which was larger sized. So I don't know what to say about that, but this is a small one and that's what we're going with. And I'll just put some of it in there. And that's probably too much because, as you recall, this plant has a lot of roots. Oh no, it's okay. So we'll just place it in here like that, with lots of space at the front, because this is quite a vigorous grower. I have a bit of perlite in this mix as well, and even a little bit of sphagnum, just to try and mimic any kind of terrestrial environment that it comes from. Encyclias, of course, are from South America. So just putting the mix in around the plant. I wonder why this plant isn't flowering. It's meant to be a cool growing one, but I've had it in a relatively cool room of the house. Hopefully now with the good roots and the repot, it will spring into growth and do great things for me. So there's the label going back in. I will just Now sprinkle some oyster grit on top to ensure the plant is getting adequate calcium, and I will water it in and hopefully check back for flowering. And that brings me to the end of my Encyclia repotting video. We have these two very rare root at the moment, and I know I'll be seeing Liga soon, so I'll hand hers over to her, and I have to think about how to look after Dimitri's until such a point in time as I can post it off to him. But we have two Encyclias that are nicely repotted, and hopefully when you check back during the next few months, you're going to see these two little babies in flower. Thank you very much for watching as always, and don't forget to check out my orchid playlists. There's one that contains all of the orchid videos I've made, and I'll link to that here at the end, and also one that contains all of the orchid repotting videos. That's all for now. Bye!